Well, at this point, we don't know a whole lot. We're awaiting information from the Crown, and we'll have some of that later on today. So at that point, we'll start to dig into what happened here on the night in question.
Jim, is there anything else you can tell us about this incident?
Not at this point. I mean, what's been reported in the media in terms of Miss Norris's background appears to be accurate. Obviously, there'll be much more details that will come out in the future. But at this stage, we really don't know a whole lot more about the case than you do.
Can you tell us if the two people involved, Ms. Norris and Marcel Reardon, knew each other?
Well, at this stage, we can't really comment on the case in any way. There's no, it doesn't add anything at this point, and we certainly have to wait until such time as we get further details.
You've spoken with her. How's she doing?
Well, again, in any murder case, it's highly emotional and stressful, and we have a charge of first-degree murder here, which is the most serious offence known to Canadian law. Also, we have the death of another human being, which brings stress upon everyone involved. So we have Miss Norris undergoing intense emotional stress. We have the family, her family and friends affected by this, and of course we have the family of the deceased, who are also affected by it. So it's a tough situation all around.
Mr. Kennedy, you were friends with Gary Norris, who was the former clerk of the Executive Council. Is this one of the reasons you decided to come back and handle this murder case?
I know Mr. Norris, and I've known him for some time. I was asked by the family to consider getting involved in this case, and knowing the family is part of it, but also there are certain aspects of this case that are of particular interest to me. And so I guess when you talk about me coming back, there's a bunch of issues here, but I haven't actually left. I argued a murder appeal in the Nova Scotia Court of Appeal last Monday, and I'm doing the few criminal cases, but certainly I did not expect to be back doing a murder trial.
Is there anything you'd say about why she's being held in Clarenville and not at the Waterford? There's been some questions about that.
Well, no, at this stage, the issue of a psychiatric consent has not been raised, and the lockup obviously doesn't have very good conditions. So Clarenville is the most appropriate place for her at this point.
There's been a lot of speculation that there might have been someone else involved here. I wonder if you can speak to that.
We're not going to speculate at this point. I mean, our job, myself and Ms. Sullivan, our role is to ensure that Ms. Norris's constitutional rights are protected and to ensure that she receives a fair trial. It doesn't help anything or anyone at this point by speculating, so we're certainly not going to engage in that. We'll see the Crown file, we'll obtain the disclosure, and we'll make our decisions based on what's contained in those materials.
Police have said they're not looking for anyone else, though.
Yeah, well, again, I can't comment. One of the issues here, as in any murder case, is that the public interest obviously always has to be protected, and that public interest is protected by ensuring that guilty people are convicted. But also one of the most basic principles of our criminal justice system is to ensure that people are not convicted of murders they didn't commit. So we have to look at the evidence. Ms. Norris is protected by the presumption of innocence, and she has constitutional rights which myself and Ms. Sullivan will ensure are protected. But other than that, there's not much that can be said at this point.
When you say, though, that there are certain issues that interest you, is there anything more you'd say on that?
I've done over the years, and the last murder trial I actually did a murder trial was myself and Ms. Sullivan when we worked together. I've done every kind of murder trial and investigated every kind of murder case over the last 30 years. And just the circumstances of this case, when you see this young woman in the situation that she finds herself, not only in criminal cases do we ask, we have to ask who done it, but we have to look at all of the facts. So those facts are just the fact that she's charged, her age and her background is certainly something that I think requires full investigation and consideration.
There have been different reports about that she was in and out of the Waterford. Are you able to confirm that she's been dealing with mental health issues? Yeah,
there's, again, not a whole lot we can say at this point other than the media reports to a certain extent are accurate.
Is there anything you'd say about whether this is shaping up to be a not criminally responsible case?
No, it's really too early at this stage to comment. We haven't seen the evidence. We need to see the evidence. I've had one meeting. Myself and Ms. Sullivan have met with Ms. Norris, and we haven't had a chance yet to have that full chat that we need to have. Obviously, this young lady is under enormous stress, and we have to ensure that that when we speak to her, she's fully aware of everything that's going on, and she understands the implications of the charge, certainly being first-degree murder.
Just to clarify, I know you've been asked about this already. The court documents have her at 32. Everyone's been saying she's 28. What's the date of birth for this young woman?
I understand she's 28. Now, Ms. Sullivan, I don't know if she's 28, yes.
She is, right?
Yeah.
And sorry, when were you retained by Ms. Norris?
The process commenced last weekend, and then it was finalized on Tuesday morning, both myself and Ms. Sullivan.